Now we're going to switch gears to talk more about this generation shift. So as we mentioned earlier, our students surveyed are mostly so-called millennials and the generations Y and Z, and the employers are mostly Generation Xers or baby boomers. So there's already like a gap. We're going to look, if you guys want to turn around really quick, we've got this pulled up here. So we have, as you can see, the interest, where the interests cross. You have career path. They want to climb the ladder. The millennials want to create their own ladder. In the work environment, we use more 9 to 5. Millennials want to work from any place, anytime. So, it's a big difference in little time, as we also discovered earlier. It hasn't been that long since we finished school. And interestingly, the top employer who seems to fulfill all of these requirements is Google. I'm not surprised, I take it. You guys surprised? No surprise. All right, the ideal employee, they have that feel-at-home experience. Do you, at your companies, have you felt like a pressure to Googleize, in a sense, and attract these Generation Y and Zs?
Of course.
On this level?
I think you want to attract talent. I'm a chief risk officer, not a chief HR officer. And that means for me, actually, why am I sat here? Well, because we're a people business. And if we can't attract the best talent, then that, for me, is one of the biggest strategic risks we have as an organisation. So it's critical that we can attract talent. I think the career paths is a really interesting example of, okay, how can you help all of the workforce, whether that's the Gen X and Y, Z, whether it's the baby boomers, understand career paths, actually, they can't be vertical anymore. If you look at changing demographics, we cannot, as a society, we need to be able to accommodate a broader range of different type of works, whether that's part-time working, much more flexible working. And that means the ladder is not the same today as it was. And that means it's a path, it's a journey, it's a horizontal, it may sometimes go down. Maybe it's snakes and ladders now would be a better analogy.
Yeah.
But it's about helping people understand what does that dynamic mean, and then giving them real pathways and opportunities where they can continue to grow. So for us, it's really important. It's about a growth mindset. It's about how do you encourage people that that's what matters in the future to be successful.
Critical to attract this young talent. Michael, do you agree?
I think when you're already a family and you're a global company, you're not looking for a large number of people. You're more looking for the right type of person. And when we come to this type of generation, for us, what's really important is that they really understand the culture of the organization and whether it fits their needs. We are lucky enough that every ad we put out there, we get quite a good number of responses. And with, for example, the Student of the Year that we're participating in, what's interesting about that is that young generation, when they get the chance to become a Student of the Year in our company, they meet the vice president of the function that is going to give them the sponsorship. They spend an hour with them. They walk them through the program, and at the end, they're there when they graduate. So they're really immersed immediately in the family. They're not like put on some kind of parallel route of internship. They really get into the organization. So I think if you can show them, you can bring them in very quickly, and you can allow them to contribute. And one of our values is entrepreneurship, so they like that. I want to be an entrepreneur. But pharma is serious, so you have to make them understand, well, it's a serious business, it's pharma. But at the same time, entrepreneurship can express itself, and this is what they like. And when they go out, they talk about this, and I think that's what's important. I think we might come to branding at some point, but they are our best ambassadors. If you really live this and they can experience it, they'll say the best things about your own culture.
Well, now that you've opened that door, we were going to get to branding, especially now you have particular experience. You've had to rename your company in the last year, Vifor. So have you had branding challenges in this respect?
So just to correct, so the Galenica Group became Vifor Pharma Group. So Vifor Pharma as a name was already out there. But we used that moment to talk about Vifor Pharma Group as a standalone pharma company and becoming number 3 Swiss pharma company in Switzerland, joining the SMI. I think that's a great moment to use those events in your life to talk about what you are and who you are. But inside, the company has remained very close to its heritage and its roots, and what they like is this global Swissness, doing good for patients, and that's a great story to talk about and build your brand around.
Do you have any thoughts on the brand value? Or I'm just going to go with a new question for you. I'm just going to go with a new, because, I'm thinking, you see Google, it's ranked as a top place to work. That's where everybody wants to be. PricewaterhouseCoopers is also a company with a very strong brand, very strong brand identity. Do you feel, how important is it to see PwC on the same level as Google?
Well, in general, it is very important to us because we want to be very attractive. We have to find the best talents that are excited to work for us. So this is something that is very important to us. Yes. And so we also invest a lot in being attractive to millennials, but of course also to talents of other generations. And what we have now done, when I now look back, we started to dig into what are the special needs of millennials 10 years ago, and we studied that. And there are certain things that we see that today is a must, like, for example, the whole giving feedback, instant feedback, to really inspire our people through by their leaders, things like that. In the past, it was enough to have annual discussions, but this is no longer true. So we have adapted our approach to this in order to also be more attractive to these talents.
All right, and last question, because we're running out of time. In terms of attracting and how do you offer a creative? How do you make these environments more creative for our young talents?
There's lots of things you do. I mean, a simple example of something that we've very recently been doing is something called Make the Difference, which is where we put a call out to our 53,000 employees and say, OK, which of you have got growth mindsets, you're curious, and you want to solve problems for the company? And typically, a lot of the very younger generation, but not exclusively, sign up, and the rest of the organisation sends problems. So we have kind of 800 problems that the organisation would like solving, and 20 or so at a time in 3-month stints in an agile working environment. It's a very cool, creative environment that we put them in. They solve problems, and most importantly, they're given the autonomy to do it. So it's not that we say, we don't really like what you've done. These are the problems that people who are like you in the business want addressing. How can you help? And it's utterly fantastic. And to be in that environment, it's incredibly dynamic and rich. And you can really feel a creativity. So that message gets out to the rest of the organisation around how creative you really can be.
I think it's for me. It really boils down to giving them meaningful work, and as soon as they join, if they can really contribute to the organisation, and in a smaller organisation, as they mentioned, our hierarchy is very flat. So we have a very open door policy. You get to know the COO very quickly. You get to know me very quickly. You can walk into any office and ask a question. And I think that's what they like, is this notion: if I'm here, I can do something. I matter. I mean something, and I'm taken seriously. So it's for me the ability to have creativity, stem from asking ideas, giving them work to work something, and also contribute and feel that that's valued.
Right, and a final word from PwC.
Our people value proposition is grow your own way. So we really ask from everyone to bring in their ideas and to shape our future together. We have just formed a future council comprising of millennials, with the idea that we discuss specific decisions, specific problems, specific views with them, and get their inputs. And I think this is also giving them a voice.
Giving them a voice, exactly. But nobody has set up any foosball tables or bean bags or in their offices.
You can have those. I think they're great, that they allow the ideas to come through. But I think it's really actually what are the actions you have that allow them to contribute.
That they do for the other 99% of the time. Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today. This was really interesting discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.